here we go. On this Monday, it is the 16th day of January, 2023, and you are in the midst of Real Talk Memphis, 6 o'clock straight up on this day that we celebrate and commemorate the life of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I am your host, Chip Washington. Very happy to be here in the air chair this evening. The gang's all here. We're fired up and ready to go on this day of service. This is a day on and not a day off. And I hope that you had a chance to get some rest, but also go out and do something good for somebody else on this day, because that's the message that Dr. King would have wanted us all to heed on this particular day. When we think about his life and his legacy and what we see today out here, kind of makes us wonder if we're really living his dream and how he would perceive society today. Yesterday was his actual birthday, January 15th. Had he lived, he would have been 94 years of age. But again, I worked downtown in that area during the early parts of the day, and it was packed. It was just full of people. It was packed. A lot of young folks were there. They had the parade today, of course, and they also had a 5K race. But what made my heart feel good was that there were a lot of young people down there. And I mean, kids, like elementary school kids, having a chance to go in and experience the National Civil Rights Museum, all that it stands for, and witness history in its effect. So we commemorate and celebrate his life and legacy on this day. Now, on to the show. First and foremost, you're asking yourself, how do I get this fine piece of radio broadcasting? Well, there are several ways to do that. Right now, we're live on the air, on the radio, on your radio, 91.7 on the FM dial, WYXR. We are also live and local on the TuneIn app. Just put in WYXR in the search and hit play, and you'll be able to get us. We are also on Facebook Live. You can check us out there as well. And I hope that many of you do. I know that for a lot of folks today, this was a national holiday, so a lot of folks were off. But this evening, sun's down now. You're kind of gathering yourself back at home, getting ready to eat dinner or whatever it is. Enjoy your evening. So give us an hour tonight. I think that we will have a decent show for you. And when it's all said and done, you can say, you know what, I'm glad I checked that show out. Once they post the show tomorrow, it will be available on YouTube. And as we are a podcast, after they post the show tomorrow afternoon, you can catch us wherever you get your podcast. So as I stated a few minutes ago, it's good to be here on this day in particular. We have a good show for you tonight. We're going to talk about some issues that are sort of top of mind these days, in particular, in terms of the dynamics of what we're dealing with in our city. One of my guests is J. Ford Canale. He is the city councilman for Super District 9, Position 2, and he's very concerned, as all of us are, about the violence that we're seeing on a daily basis, but in particular about the drag racing and the speeding on the on the interstates, at 100 miles an hour, causing a lot of problems out there for many of us. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and some of the other issues that the City Council is weighing in on these days. Laurie Powell is going to join us. She is the CEO of Alliance Healthcare. And, they basically, want to, deal with the wholeness of an individual. Mental health is an issue that is becoming a bigger, more pronounced issue, a more vocal issue these days, when it hasn't been for a very long time. A lot of folks don't like to talk about family members who are maybe dealing with some mental health issues and some of the concerns that are involved there. It has been coined at one particular point in time, our dirty little secret, because people just didn't want to talk about it. But now we're seeing more and more cases of it. And so Laurie is going to talk to us a little bit about what their group does, and more importantly, the partnerships that they are developing with law enforcement in terms of the Sheriff's Office, Memphis Police Department, and alike, in terms of critical intervention, crisis intervention, and making sure that people who are locked up are not locked up because they have mental issues, separating one from the other. So we're going to have a conversation about that. And a little bit later on, we're going to be talking with family law attorney Kirkland Bible. She is one of the law partners, at one of the law firms here in town. And she's going to talk to something that was brought to my attention that I had never heard of. That January, every month there's a theme of some type, and it's generally in the medical, area of this or that. Well, this January is Child-Centered Divorce Month. And I had no idea that there was such a thing, but there is, and you can look it up yourself. But really what it deals with is how divorce can affect children. In ways that are not necessarily, of a positive nature. And January is the highest month for people to file for divorce throughout the entire year. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, but more importantly, we're going to talk about children who may be in the middle of an emotional situation between a husband and a wife, and how this can affect them in certain ways. So I'm looking forward to that conversation a little bit later on. So hopefully you'll stick with us for the ride. In the meantime, as we always do this time of the program, we celebrate you. You're a January baby. You were born today or this past weekend, or you have a birthday coming up this week. This is your time. This is where we dedicate the shout outs to. So we always do this time each and every Monday evening, but I can't do that unless I say, hit it, Bran.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. There's a lot of them to talk about today. Nate Ollie celebrating his birthday today. Happy birthday to Michelle Isom. Stephanie Skurlock, WREG, evening news anchor, 5, 6, and 10, celebrating her birthday today. Happy birthday, Steph. Marcus Jones celebrating today, as is Asia Monique. Leanne Mayo celebrating today. Abigail Rounds, it's your birthday. Belinda Shaw, happy birthday to you. Barry A. Ford Sr. celebrating today, as is Kim Woodard, Ernest Polk, Betty Ward, and William Taylor. And as we mentioned earlier, had he lived, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King would have been 94 years old yesterday. So to each and every one of you, Lola, you got a birthday you want to mention? Here she comes. Here she comes.
Happy birthday to Kirora and Avery Jet.
I'm not even going to try to repeat that. Say it one more time.
Kirora and Avery Jet.
Avery Jet.
Yes.
Happy
birthday, ladies.
Happy birthday, ladies, on this Monday. And we hope to be with you next year to celebrate your next trip around the sun. Congratulations, one and all. Thank you, Bren. And speaking of Bren, before we get to the news and notes, I think, we told you last week that he was out. He had COVID. He's a young guy, too, by the way. And he's back with us tonight. He's feeling better. He said, he had a couple of days there, but he looks good. And we are very happy to have him back amongst us on tonight. Death to celebrate, not to celebrate, but actually to commemorate Lisa Marie Presley, the only daughter of Elvis Presley. Died late last week of a cardiac arrest or a heart attack. She was 54 years of age, and she was just in the city a few days before that to commemorate, I think it was last Sunday, would have been Elvis's 88th birthday. Yeah, I think that's what, yeah. So she was here for that. She always goes to Graceland for his birthday celebration. So literally, 3-4 days later, she was gone now. She leaves 3 children behind, and a lot of folks very saddened by that news. All right, so some news and notes here. I'm going to kind of blow through these a little bit quick. Last week, maybe you have heard about it over at the Hilton over on Ridge Lake, that 2 cars, 3 individuals each, pulled up in front of the hotel with a car that looked like it was a police vehicle. When they got out of the cars, they had police badges on. I guess the outfits that they wore said in Memphis Police Department. They were carrying AR-15 assault rifles. They were not police. They were imposters, 6 of them. They walked up on at least 5 to 6 people with the intent of carjacking them, which they did. 2 of them got beaten up pretty good in this whole process. Didn't know what they did, didn't know why they were thrown to the ground, and they were beat and they were threatened. And law enforcement said that these phony law enforcement folks said, we'll kill you if you move or do anything at all. So this happened at 2:30 in the afternoon. Once again, this speaks to what we talk about all the time out there. If people breaking laws out here in the middle of the day, in the afternoon, bright sunshine can do it, what makes you think they have any fear to do anything else? This used to be done in the cloak of darkness, but now, because of the fact that they feel so emboldened to do it, they do it in the middle of the afternoon. 6 men posing as law enforcement officers with the Memphis Police Department and carjacked folks in the middle of the afternoon. Very, very sad situation. So many of us are talking about what happened late last week where Tyree Nichols, a gentleman who was involved in a traffic stop middle of last week over in the south part of town. Apparently, officers stopped him because he was driving erratically. Okay, they stopped him, and when they approached him, he ran from law enforcement officers. Well, apparently there was a confrontation initially, and then he ran from law enforcement officers. They caught him, and there was a second confrontation that was had. At that particular point in time, he complained of a shortness of breath. They did call medical, an ambulance who took him to the hospital, St. Francis. Unfortunately, he died 3 days later. And he was only 29 years old. His name was Tyree Nichols. So now, D.A. Mulroy, because it was a police matter, immediately called the TBI, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, to investigate, and it was possible use of force incident. So that investigation is still going on. But yesterday afternoon, we got a comment from the Memphis Police Department, the police chief, C.J. Davis, and also the mayor, basically saying that there is an ongoing investigation with the officers who are involved. Now, procedure dictates that anytime there is an investigation of a police officer, they are automatically relieved of duty. But apparently, it looks as if there may have been some violations by the law enforcement officers in reference to the procedures that were used. Enough of a case that the chief decided to make a public statement saying that we are investigating this right now, and we are looking at all the law enforcement officers, and we plan on taking swift action if procedures were violated. Well, it looks like that may have been the case. Now, right after she made her statement, the Mayor Strickland, weighed in and said, yeah, absolutely, this is going to happen, and we're not going to waste a lot of time in making a determination as to what happened during these quote-unquote confrontations, and that if it shows that the law enforcement officers violated procedure, they will be immediately disciplined, and action will be taken against those officers, although they have not said what those actions might be. The police department is talking about maintaining transparency and accountability in terms of all of this. We could see some action in terms of what happens in terms of discipline with these officers before this week is out. And by the way, the family has now retained the services of attorney Ben Crump. So prepare for this to be a national news story. The family is extraordinarily upset. If you've seen some of the photos of what Tyree looked like before and apparently in the hospital afterwards, it looked like something was going on, that's for sure. We're not going to rush to judgment. We are going to wait and see what law enforcement comes up with in terms of all of this. So at that point, I'm going to pause, and we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to get into the show. What do you say on this Monday edition of Real Talk Memphis? I'm Chip. A quick break. We'll be right back.
If you like Real Talk, here's a way you can get involved. Do you have a show topic idea or suggestion? Want to be considered a guest or have a guest idea? Then send Chip a message on his Real Talk show page and you can be a part of the Real Talk experience. So as he always says, go out and tell somebody. We'll be right back.
WYXR is supported by the Holland Stage at the Holland Center Music and Theater Series, evening with Don Bryant and the Don Bryant on Friday, February 10th. Memphis Soul Man Don Bryant was a solo artist at High Records during the label's 1970s heyday. However, many didn't discover his talent until the release of his 2017 album, Don't Give Up on Love, his first soul album in 48 years. More information at orpheum-memphis.com.
So many times my love before.
WYXR is supported by Shell Days Music Festival, presented by Mempho, April 21st and 22nd at Overton Park Shell. Shell Days will feature 2 days of music with Trampled by Turtles, Southern Avenue, Leftover Salmon, Neil Francis, Paul Thorne, and Bailey Bigger. More information at memphopresents.com.
WYXR is supported by the Germantown Performing Arts Center, presenting Nico Case on Saturday, February 4th. Nico Case is on tour in support of her newest album, Wild Creatures, which pulls together high points of feral joy from 21 years of solo work. The performance will include an opening set by Indigo Spark. More information at gpacweb.com.
Get Real Talk on the TuneIn mobile app under WYXR, and he's now streaming live on Facebook. And you can also catch a rebroadcast on YouTube. Just put WYXR in the search box and hit subscribe. Now back to more Real Talk with Chip Washington.
And welcome back to Real Talk Memphis on this Monday evening. Glad to have you with us and glad to have you along for the ride. My first guest tonight, I'm glad she's with us as well. We mentioned at the top of the show that mental illness for a very long period of time has been a stigma on a lot of people and a lot of families, and something that folks really don't like to talk about. It has been called the dirty little secret, but we've seen more and more cases of it. It's becoming more and more vocalized in terms of what it's all about and the impact that it has on so many. So I wanted to kind of dig into this a little bit deeper. Very happy to have on the show tonight Laurie Powell. She is the CEO of Alliance Healthcare here in the city. And Laurie, good to see you. Thanks for coming on Real Talk. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me on MLK Day, as a matter of fact, because he did talk about the disparities in healthcare, and mental health is certainly one that we need to really put a spotlight on, and so glad that you're doing that with your show today.
Well, thank you for being here again. And, you know, as we talk about that, and you and I talked a little bit offline about this. Now, you have several facilities here in the city, and you're actually opening up a new one here in Memphis. Am I correct in that?
Yes, we're actually opening up two, and I think the article that you saw was the one that's the old PowerTel building in Binghamton.
Yes.
And that's going to be our new call center, walk-in center. We're just waiting on one thing from licensure to be able to open it up to walk-ins in the public. But we certainly see the increase in need, and we're trying to add locations throughout Memphis. This will be our 8th outpatient location.
That's a lot, and it does signify the need, for facilities like this. Why do you think, because this is something that you've been doing for a while and you've dedicated your life to, But why has it been so stigmatized, Laurie, in your opinion? A lot of folks just did not want to admit that they had someone in their family or maybe even themselves who were dealing with some emotional issues that turned out to be some mental illness issues.
I think they feel like, other than, say hypertension, which I have and I take a pill for, there's the stigma, as you mentioned earlier, around people don't want to say, hey, I have depression, or hey, I'm feeling down. And there's been historically this thinking that, hey, you need to just get up and get going and it'll, take care of itself and go away. But behavioral health, mental health is the number one reason that people miss work today, and it's growing.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. That's a pretty staggering statistic, is it not?
It is absolutely staggering, and the World Health Organization reported on it, and we're going to continue to see increases in the need for access to services. And so I'm glad we're opening this center, and we're also going to be building a crisis center on Summer, 3206 Summer. We're the largest crisis center in the state of Tennessee.
Wow. If you're just joining us, ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with Laurie Powell. She is the CEO of Alliance Healthcare here in our city, and we're talking about the issue of mental illness. And one of the things that really tends to put more of a spotlight on situations like this is the issue of individuals out there who may have been involved in some criminal activity, and perhaps even what makes me think about that is when we see people who are involved in hostage situations, they're holding their family, and a lot of other things that go into that. Turns out that many of those folks may be dealing with mental illness issues, but still, even with that, many of them are incarcerated, locked up when they really need treatment. Talk about that a little bit.
Yes, I wanted to mention that CIT was founded here in Memphis, and that's the police are trained to de-escalate. The whole goal of CIT, when it was founded in 1987 here in Memphis, and it's now a national and an international model, was to divert and get people into treatment, community resources, and not jail. But as you know, there's approximately 44% of the population in jail. That's the statistics, have a mental health issue. We
should let people know that CIT stands for Crisis Intervention Team. Am I correct? With the police department.
That's correct. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things we're trying to do at Alliance is partner up with the community resources like the sheriff. That's a new initiative we have with the sheriff called the SAFE Team, and with the police and fire called the CARE Team, where we're going out into the community to try to link them into treatment and divert even further from jail. Because what we started with at our crisis center, with our jail diversion walk-in center program, which is right now on the second floor of MMHI, we divert approximately 400 individuals from jail through that program. It's the Alliance Healthcare Crisis Continuum. Uh-huh. And that makes us the largest in the state. But we know there's even more needs, because you still have 44% that are going to jail, and many of those individuals really need to be linked to treatment and not in jail, and then connected to community resources so they can live, stable lives in the community.
That's huge. That everything you just said there is absolutely huge. Being able to dissect or discern rather whether a person has issues that need to be treated versus being criminals committing crimes and being put in a jail cell. This partnership that you all have with law enforcement, to me, is extraordinarily critical. Do you know if you're one of the only facilities, in the country that pairs with law enforcement like this, and actually has maybe someone on site in situations that may be questionable in terms of someone dealing with a mental illness issue?
I know we're the first to start in the state of Tennessee.
Wow.
Nashville's doing it now. And Houston has a really large model, Houston, Texas. And I think the thing that makes us unique here in Memphis is we're adding the the EMT, the fire department component, to
Yes.
assess for medical at the same time. But I do want to leave you with one word. We hear about all these people in the news, and then we find out later they had a mental illness or behavioral health issue. And there's a word called anagnosia. I hope I'm saying that right.
Mm-hmm.
But that's when someone does not realize they need help. And there's a lot of people out there, maybe they're having their first manic episode, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they're having their first psychotic episode, like they're hearing voices, the devil told me to do something to my mom or whatever. Those individuals come in contact with the police sometimes when the family member's calling 911 and saying, look, my son has a knife, he's coming at me or whatever. Then we find out after interviews that person thinks, Satan's talking to him. That's just one example. There's many others. And if we can get that person to us, that person doesn't need to be in jail, and get them stable. They can live, really good lives in the community and be productive and even employed if we can stabilize them.
Well, I got to tell you something. I really admire the work that you're doing, and you're really pulling the cover off of this, which needs to happen for so many. And this is nothing to be ashamed of. This is an emotional problem that many people have. And we surely need more facilities like yours, because as you guys say, you really want to, develop the wholeness in a person. You want to do whatever it takes to make a person whole and feel whole and a productive member of society, which I think is extraordinary.
Thank you. And I do want to give a shout out to some of the partners. We partner with all of the hospitals to divert from long wait times in the emergency room.
Sure.
And Pastor Young, we know working with the church is critical, because sometimes that stigma, if we can go where that person is and work with the churches to help them recognize there's nothing wrong with that person, they just need help. And Commissioner Caswell and I have been partners in a few things in Fraser. So
yeah.
Trauma, our community, there's something called community trauma, and our community has been traumatized. And a lot of the children and adolescents and adults who are experiencing this trauma day in and day out and don't have the support, say, that maybe you and I might have, they might need a little bit more help.
Absolutely that. Laurie Powell, thank you so much for all that you do and for coming on the show tonight and really giving us some valuable information and insight into mental illness. You're welcome back anytime, but thank you so much for coming on Real Talk tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. And when we kick off our new crisis building, I'd love to talk to you about that and what we're going to be doing there.
You and I will be in touch. Absolutely. Thank you, Laurie. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great one.
Hey, you too. Laurie Powell, ladies and gentlemen, CEO of Alliance Healthcare, and really great interview. And again, there's no stigma and there's no shame in any of this. If you need help, reach out, because help is available. We're going to take our next break, and when we come back, we're going to speak to one of our city councilmen about some of the issues that are going on in our city and what the city council is looking at to try to address it. This is Real Talk Memphis. I'm Chip. We'll be back after this.
If you like Real Talk, here's a way you can get involved. Do you have a show topic idea or suggestion? Want to be considered a guest or have a guest idea? Then send Chip a message on his Real Talk show page and you can be a part of the Real Talk experience. So as he always says, go out and tell somebody. We'll be right back.
Support for WYXR comes from Farm Burger. Farm Burger is your neighborhood grass-fed burger joint located in the East Atrium of Crosstown Concourse, offering custom grass-fed burgers, seasonal salads, and more. Farm Burger takes pride in their grass-fed beef and partners with local farmers such as Home Place Pastures, Bonnie Blue Farm, and Marmalou Farms. For more information, visit farmburger.com.
WYXR is supported by GPAC, presenting Australian guitarist Tommy Emmanuel on Friday, January 13th. Tommy Emmanuel is known for his fingerstyle technique, live performances, and use of percussive effects on the guitar. More information at gpacweb.com.
Get Real Talk on the TuneIn mobile app under WYXR, and he's now streaming live on Facebook. And you can also catch a rebroadcast on YouTube. Just put WYXR in the search box and hit subscribe. Now back to more Real Talk with Chip Washington.
And welcome back to Real Talk Memphis on this Monday as we celebrate the life and legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. Quick roll call on the Facebook live line. Patricia A. Rogers is watching us tonight, as is Cheryl Lewis, Michael Harris, Vera Epps, and let's see here. Terry Anderson is checking us out this evening as well. Talisa Franklin, what's up, T? She's checking us out as well. I appreciate you, Angie Eggleston. I appreciate you as well. Thank you all for checking this out tonight. My next guest is someone I've never had on this program before, but I saw him last week, and I saw the outrage in him as he was speaking about some of the issues that we are dealing with in our city in terms of the violent activities and a lot of other things that are going on. I'm very happy that he accepted the invitation. Please welcome to Real Talk Memphis, Councilman J. Ford Canale, Super District 9, Position 2. And Councilman, it's good to have you on the show tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chip. I appreciate you having me. Good to be with you.
Yeah, thank you. So listen, we can't see you, but that's okay. We can still have a conversation. Last week, there was a meeting that was held. I think it might have been sponsored by you in reference in particular to the drag racing issue that we see in the neighborhoods and communities in town. There you are. And also the speeding up and down the interstates, which has just become so dangerous and really is scaring the heck out of people. What made you decide to have this meeting and really, talk about some of the things that are bothering you and many of your constituents in reference to this?
Yeah, Chip, it's a great question. It was time for the public to have their voice heard, and to have the chief of police, and to have engineering, and to have the district attorney general there to answer questions and to hear their concerns. And because they're scared, people are scared. These people are terrorizing our streets all over our city on a daily basis. And it's the number one complaint that I'm getting through my office right now. And in my other job in the funeral business, I'm all over the city, certainly within my district, but also well outside it. And I see it myself every day. I saw it just several times today. And it's got to stop before we continue to lose innocent lives.
That is something. And you mentioned it really there, and it's an honest assessment. People are scared, they're frustrated, they're angry with so much that is going on out here. You're having to look over your shoulder, crimes being committed in the middle of the day. Doesn't seem to be anything that fears individuals who are committing criminal acts. What's your take on all that? And as a council, I know that they're burning up your ears and the phone lines, citizens every day about things like this. Where are we, and what, if anything, can be done to act as a deterrent for all that we see on a daily basis?
Yeah, that's a great question. So where we are is the police department is somewhat strapped because the criminals know that MPD cannot engage in a high-speed pursuit and chase a lot of them. So a lot of times, and I've heard this complaint come through several times, that a car blew past somebody going north of 100 miles an hour, and there happened to be an MPD car in the neighborhood, and they didn't even turn their lights to attempt to stop them.
Right.
So the penalty has got to be greater. It's got to come from the state. There is bipartisan support right now in Nashville. I've heard Senator Lamar talk about it. Representative Gillespie is going to carry a bill. I know that newly elected Senator Brent Taylor is also interested, in Representative Mark White. They are interested, as well as our body. We've spoken that said that we support the civil forfeiture. Until you make the penalty more severe, no one out there right now seems to be afraid of the current penalties. So unless we can start taking some of these vehicles and them not getting them back, I don't think you're going to see a decrease in this type of activity.
I think that many people will echo your opinion in reference to the fact that there really doesn't seem any like any deterrent at all The mayor has used the terms like a revolving door, the 201 Poplar. I mean, they go in, they know the system, they understand it backwards and forwards, and they go in, and then 2 or 3 days later, they're bonded out, and they hit the streets again to finish committing the same type of crimes that they were. We're seeing a big increase in juvenile crime. We've been talking about this now for a while. Kids under the age of 16 years old committing major felonies. As a body, and your honest assessment about, people are asking locally, what can our elected leaders do about this particular situation? You mentioned that a lot of these legislative actions need to come from the state. Tell us a little bit more about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, we passed some new ordinances with drag racing, but unfortunately, local ordinances just don't have enough teeth to them to really move the needle much. So the enforcement's got to come from the state level down. And, we as a body get all we can, we always want to hire more police officers, right? We want to get the pay and the benefits up to where we are the leading amongst our neighboring municipalities and counties in order to hire and to retain good police officers. But the real teeth has got to come from the state. And we heard former DA Wyrick and current DA Mulroy talk about how hard it is to prove drag racing. So they increased the penalty for drag racing at the state level in the last legislative session. In this session, we're hoping for them to increase the penalty for reckless driving because it's much easier to prove. Under drag racing right now, they can seize the vehicle, but unless a conviction is had, then they get that vehicle back. We've got to get to reckless driving to be a Class A misdemeanor or a lower grade felony so that their civil forfeiture and the vehicle can be taken and they do not get it back. And then again, it's a little bit tricky because some of these vehicles we know that are out there on our roadways are stolen. Some of them are not, and some of them have invested quite a bit of money in these vehicles and then made aftermarket modifications to them. So if they thought that there's a chance that they're going to lose that vehicle and not have a chance to get it back, I think they'd think twice before they terrorize our streets and interstate systems.
Just joining us, we're speaking with City Councilman J. Ford Canale, Super District 9, Position 2, and we're talking about some of the issues that are really affecting and bothering us on a regular basis here in terms of crime. Let me ask you this, because you mentioned it a couple of times in this conversation. The State House, which is majority led, but there seems to be, and there has been for a while, some sort of an issue between what goes on in Nashville and what happens down here in Shelby County, in terms of differences of thoughts and opinions and things. Do you think that the legislature is really focused on the real issues that we're dealing with here in Shelby County, as well as the folks up there in Davidson County where they legislate?
Well, that's a good question. With the constitutional carry, with the permitless carry,
yep.
It felt like that they had really not considered Shelby County because we did not want it. The police department didn't want it. A lot of our citizens didn't want it. There was nothing wrong with the permitting process for everybody to go through in order to carry a handgun. So in that way, no, they weren't thinking about us. But however, I think that we've got some good leadership on both sides of the aisle up there right now that is respected in Nashville, and that their colleagues up there are listening to them and are listening to their concerns, along with the Speaker of the House. And I think that they've got to understand that Memphis is their number 2 economic driver. They've got to take care of us, and they've got to listen to our concerns, and they've got to do more to help us down here because we are a big player in the state and sending tax dollars up to Nashville.
Before I let you go, what else is that you're looking at? We're beginning a brand new year, and there's always, things on the legislative agenda that you all are looking at. What are some of the other issues that the City Council as a body is looking at this year?
From the state, we would, of course, like more funding. If the Titans are going to get a new stadium, we would, appreciate some of that investment here in the FedEx Forum and the Liberty Bowl Stadium.
Sure.
We would always accept more Tennessee Highway patrolmen on our roadways so that we could pull MPD more back within our city streets. And then we could always use more help with infrastructure, our roadways. We've put quite a bit of money the last several years into paving out of our city's budget, and we would appreciate the state doing the same on their state routes. That's another complaint that we get a lot of, the potholes and then the lack of paving of the last several years.
Yeah.
So we would appreciate that as well.
Well, listen, we're dealing with some delicate times these days and some delicate issues as well. I really want to thank you for coming on the show and addressing some of these, issues straight up, and actually admitting that, the State House has to do a lot more to help us. In some instances, our hands are tied, and it becomes frustrating for you all as well. But I know that you're going to keep pushing and keep working to make things better for us here in the city of Memphis. And I want to thank you for taking some time out of your schedule tonight to come on and visit with us.
Absolutely. Many thanks to you. I appreciate you having me, and I look forward to being back on soon.
Absolutely. You got that. That's a deal. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Chip. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. J4 Canale, ladies and gentlemen, very honest about what is going on out here in our streets, and it's tough on the legislators because we don't have any place else to turn. I mean, who are we going to talk to? Our elected leaders. I'm looking at some of the comments here. James K. Winfrey said that his suggestion is bringing back some of the units and programs that worked back in the day, like Blue Crush and SCAT. And he thinks that the officers' hands are being tied. Well, first of all, we don't have a lot of law enforcement officers. We don't have enough here to patrol what goes on out here in these streets, which is even a bigger issue in terms of trying to get folks to come in here and try to protect these streets. And he also says that most of the cars, and he's right, a lot of them are stolen. If that's the case, it's going to be kind of hard to collect them, and take them away from somebody when it's not their car in the first place. There are a lot of issues that we're dealing with, that they're dealing with on a daily basis. But the fact is this: it's tough out here in this city, and we're living kind of in a lawless society almost, when criminals are the ones that are running things in this town. And when you have 15, 16-year-olds out here committing major felonies like murder, and there really isn't much punishment, so you put them in juvenile court until they're 19, and then they're back out on the streets again. So now there's this argument about, well, how do you move a child forward into the adult system if he's only 15 years old? And what good does that do? Lot of questions, very, very few answers. But if you continue watching this show and listening to this show, we're going to bring on the folks and ask them the questions that we need answers for. So great interview with J4 Canale. Appreciate him being on the show. One final break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about something I had never heard of until very recently. That is child-centered divorce. This is Real Talk Memphis. I am Chip. Our final quick break, and we'll be right back.
If you like Real Talk, here's a way you can get involved. Do you have a show topic idea or suggestion? Want to be considered a guest or have a guest idea? Then send Chip a message on his Real Talk show page, and you can be a part of the Real Talk experience. So as he always says, go out and tell somebody. We'll be right back.
WYXR is supported by the On Stage at the Halloran Center 2022-2023 season, which continues in downtown Memphis. Experience live entertainment with music, magic, and more, including the return of Orchestra Unplugged and the Songwriter Series events. More information and the full lineup at orpheum-memphis.com/onstage.
WYXR is supported by Shell Days Music Festival, presented by Mempho, April 21st and 22nd at Overton Park Shell. Shell Days will feature 2 days of music with Trampled by Turtles, Southern Avenue, Leftover Salmon, Neil Francis, Paul Thorne, and Bailey Bigger. More information at memphopresents.com.
WYXR is supported by GPAC, presenting Australian guitarist Tommy Emmanuel on Friday, January 13th. Tommy Emmanuel is known for his fingerstyle technique, live performances, and use of percussive effects on the guitar. More information at gpacweb.com.
Get Real Talk on the TuneIn mobile app under WYXR, and he's now streaming live on Facebook. And you can also catch a rebroadcast on YouTube. Just put WYXR in the search box and hit subscribe. Now back to more Real Talk with Chip Washington.
And welcome back to the big broadcast on this Monday evening. Very happy to have you with us. I know that many of you are gearing up and getting ready for the big football game coming up a little after 7 o'clock tonight between the Dallas Cowboys and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't really have a rooting interest except for anybody who beats the Cowboys. So we'll move on from that. And by the way, I wanted to acknowledge my pastor, Reverend Dr. Jonathan Jamal McReynolds, is checking us out tonight. Really appreciate him and his support as well. I'm really happy to have my next guest with us because this particular subject is something I had never heard of before, ever, until it was recently brought to my attention. You know, we always put labels on months. You know, generally a lot of those things are health related. But this in January is Child-Centered Divorce Month. Now, I ask you all, out there, show of hands, who's heard of that? Who ever heard of that? Well, I can tell you right now, my hand's held up high because I surely have not. Very fortunate to have a family law attorney joining me this evening to talk a little bit about this very sensitive subject. Her name is Kirkland Bible. And Kirkland, first of all, welcome to Real Talk Memphis. I'm really happy to have you. And if you will, before we start talking a little bit, tell us what law firm you represent.
So I'm at Moskovitz, McGee, Brown, Cohen, and Moore. There are about 14 of us attorneys that work there. And I would say, I think 12 of us practice only family law. So we're a family law, somewhat centered firm that, largely practices in that area.
So, this whole issue is really something I would imagine not only, me, but many, many, many people tend to take for granted. I recently learned, too, that in terms of divorce filings, January is the highest month of the year when it comes to that. Is that true?
It is true. We in our firm, and I know other firms in town, really notice an uptick after the holidays. And I would think that the reason is that people, want to get through Christmas, want to give their children, the best holiday season that they can. Mm-hmm. And then January, we make resolutions, and it's a time for really looking back at the past year and looking forward. And so we do notice an increase in divorce filings in January.
So having said that, many people who have children still in the house, having to deal with some of the emotional issues that come, from divorce situations and some of the tension and stress that goes along with that. Children really are the innocent victims of all of this. Talk to us a little bit about what you all have found it does to children psychologically, and what kind of damage this could pose. Because anytime you have an issue where there may be a separation of the family, that's a tough thing.
It is, but so often we say, what is healthier for a child, and maybe that's past my pay grade as an attorney, but is it better to have two unhappy parents in a household with conflict, or is it better to have two happier parents in two separate households? And I'm not, in no way am I pro-divorce.
No, of course not. Right.
Saying, that you have an issue and therefore you should file for divorce, and but I do think that it doesn't have to be the worst thing that's ever happened to a child, especially if it's handled with care and with two parents that have their child or children at the focus, rather than some attempt to win or to one up the other parent. If they're really focused on their children, then hopefully they come out largely unscathed.
When you have these, I would say, uncomfortable conversations with two, parents who are going through a divorce, what you just said, I thought was very powerful. Is that the kind of advice or thought process that you might want to impart with parents, of young children who are looking, at separating and moving on with each other's, with their independent lives? Really paying attention to what this is going to do to your child, and more importantly, how you can address that, even though you two aren't getting along, but how you can make that child, feel like it's not their fault or responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and we always, I guess by virtue of being family law attorneys, we often become de facto, therapists or counselors. But we so often are so pro therapy or counseling for everybody. And I think Memphis has a wealth of resources, whether that's through private counseling or through group sessions or through churches or ministry or whatever it is, but to really have a support system in place for yourself and for your children, to help address, what if any issues, and we all need help, and we're all imperfect and flawed, and need all the help we can get. So we're very pro therapy and counseling.
Once a separation or divorce is finalized, in your line of work, what are some of the main ways parents can help to maintain a smooth relationship? And you mentioned the word, to be good co-parents to their shared children. That to me is an extraordinarily important component in all of this.
It is. I think communication, in any relationship, whether you're married or you're separated or you're divorced, but communication is just so crucial. And, to be the bigger person and to say, our child has a basketball game tonight or in a week, and here's the schedule, and would you like to come to this? And maybe we can sit together, and just communicating. And that's one narrow example, but to really communicate. And then, as a family law attorney, if issues need to be addressed in the future, then, there's a clear record of that communication, should any kind of issues arise. But really thinking of your child's best interest, and, having the most stable upbringing for them going forward, to really talk to one another.
That's really, extraordinary, good advice that you're offering, because, as we said earlier, we don't hear about this. This is not something that really comes up in a lot of conversations, and we tend to forget that we as adults who are dealing with our own issues are not alone in this process, especially when you have young children who are watching both. Sometimes parents, make them pick sides, choose sides, and things like that. Very, very harmful for the child that is involved in all of this. And I love the fact that you say we all need help from time to time, and there's nothing wrong with talking to somebody about this.
Absolutely. The more help that we can all get, the better. And, the real emphasis is to keep everything as stable and as unchanged for your child as possible. And I know sometimes that's a pipe dream and people move, but to keep their lives as normal as possible is the real focus.
Well, listen, thank you so much for taking some time out to come and visit with us tonight. You really imparted some really, really good information. Kirkland Bible, family law attorney, talking to us about a very sensitive issue. At times it can be child-centered divorce, and some of the things that we can do as grown-ups to show our children we love them no matter what our circumstances are. Kirkland, thank you so much for coming on Real Talk Memphis. I really appreciate you, and you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you so much for having me. We love WYXR. It's our Favorite station.
That's exactly,
favorite and only station we listen to.
I meant to say that earlier. You did tell me that, and so you've made the management here very, very, very happy. So
made my night.
Thank you so much. Well, listen, you take good care of yourself. We'll talk to you down the road.
Thank you. You too.
All righty. So good way to end the show tonight. This has been a very, very good show, if I do, as the humble host, say so myself. Very happy to see all the participants on the Facebook Live line. And as I say each and every week, tell somebody about what we're doing here on Real Talk Memphis, because each and every week we try to provide some good information. Thank you all for being a part of all of this conversation, and really thank you for weighing in. And this is for you, James. I know you're a big, huge Cowboy fan tonight, but I just can't help myself. I have to hate on them tonight. So we'll see what happens after it's all said and done. Also, quick thank yous to Trudy Turner, who is watching, and Kevin Phipps, he's watching as well. Thank you all again. If I missed anybody out here. Jackie Woods Webb, she's also checking us out as well tonight. So as Bryn plays us out, we have wrapped up another great show as we move gently but quickly through the month of January. This is going to be another quick year. I can already feel it. Thank you all for your support. Thank you all for your encouragement. Thank you all for your appreciation of what we do. Continue to tell folks about what we do here at Real Talk Memphis. We're on each and every Monday night from 6 to 7 p.m. Central Time. We are also a podcast, so if you missed the show, you can always go back and check out the show. It's recorded on Facebook Live, or you can get the podcast, okay? So keep reminding, keep talking to your friends about it. Say, hey, have you checked out Real Talk Memphis? Well, if they say no, after you spank their hand, then you give them the information as to how they can reach us. So in the meantime, in between time, thank you again for being a part of all of this. And if the Lord says so, we'll be back here next week. Same time, same chair, and we'll try to do it just a little bit better. So for Nicole, for Lola, and for Bryn, I'm Chip. We're out. Have a great and safe week.